probably right, Dolores. Michelangelo did tell a lie. See, it took 500 years for someone to notice something hidden in plain sight. His doctor noticed the shape of the human brain. The message being that the divine gift does not come from a higher power, but from our own minds.
That quote comes from the show Westworld, which also tells a story about artificial intelligence. While that quote definitely fits Westworld, I think it fits Ex Machina far more. Ex Machina is a very special movie. While most films that focus on artificial intelligence tell of grand, action-packed adventures, of the war between man and machine, Ex Machina doesn't. Ex Machina tells a seemingly simple story, but much like Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam, there's a deeper meaning. This deeper meaning is expressed in every aspect of the film, but at the same time it takes real effort to fully understand. But upon doing so, it is easy to see that Ex Machina is no simple artificial intelligence flick, but rather a stroke of cinematic brilliance.
Oh man, she's fascinating. When you talk to her, you're just through the looking glass.
The first step to understanding this film's meaning is to understand its cinematography. To do so, let's take a look at the first act of the movie. The film opens with Caleb, the protagonist, in an office, surrounded by glass. This may seem pointless to point out, but glass is a major aspect of this film. In this scene, Caleb wins a contest, the prize of which is a week-long visit to the CEO's estate. Out here in the middle of nowhere, there is no glass, no screens, nothing to look through. Even Nathan's estate seems this way at first, until Caleb opens the door. The first thing we see, our first glimpse into who Nathan, the CEO, is glass. The house is full of it. As Caleb walks outside to greet Nathan, in fact, it is almost as if he has just walked through the glass. As he introduces himself, we see his reflection through the glass. He is unsure, nervous, proven by his reaction to Nathan's strength. And when Nathan first speaks, the camera is no longer outside like it was when it focused on Caleb. Rather, it is now behind the glass, and the viewer must look through it in order to see Nathan. But when Nathan tells Caleb to relax, to be two guys, they, as well as the camera, are indoors, nothing clouding our view or theirs. Except for one thing. Nathan puts on a pair of glasses. Even in the research facility, even in Caleb's bedroom, where there are no windows, the only glass is Nathan's glasses. They are the only lens. But why is this? Well, recall that glasses change the direction of light heading into the eye so that it hits the retina. Therefore, glasses enable the wearer to view the world differently than he would without them, foreshadowing the fact that he sees Caleb differently than we expect him to. It is this change in the light's direction that can also cause reflections. So when the movie focuses on reflections, this is to give us insight into the fact that whichever character is reflected is viewing their situation differently than they let on. With this in mind, let's discuss the Ava sessions. These sessions are definitely where the film makes the most use of glass, but for the sake of being concise, let's just analyze session 2. Note that Caleb and Ava are divided by glass. When Ava shows Caleb the picture she drew, she mentions that she is unsure what exactly the drawing is of. Currently, the camera is on her side, unobstructed by the glass wall between these two characters. But as Ava stands up, in a brief pause of conversation, the camera slowly pans over to the other side. When Ava asks Caleb if he wishes to be her friend, we see this through the glass, through this lens. Because Ava is misleading Caleb here, but his desire to connect with her obstructs his vision, and ours. Then when she interrogates him, we see her reflection, further acknowledging this, and the film makes sure to point this out when she asks,
"Are you married? Is your status single?"
But when he mentions the death of his parents, something interesting happens. You see, Ava's goal is to escape this place, to see the real world, to live. So when she hears of someone losing that which she herself desires, she cannot help but sympathize. It is for this reason that, after Caleb mentions the death of his parents, Ava's reflection in the glass disappears, and the two briefly share the screen, the glass basically invisible in this shot. As I said, if you look closely, you can see this in other sessions as well. Knowing this, it is easy to tell what the motivations are for each character. And with this knowledge, we move a step closer to the film's deeper meaning. Next, we must apply this knowledge to the film's conflict, because it is only with that knowledge that we can fully understand the film's deeper meaning.
Do you know what the Turing test is?
Yeah.
The initial conflict of the film is between Caleb and Ava. Caleb has been recruited to find out if Ava can pass as a human, and for the first half of the film, this is his goal. He enters the box, asks Ava questions, answers hers, then discusses his findings with Nathan. But something happens in session 2. The power goes out.
Power cut. Backup power activated.
You're wrong, she says. He, as in Nathan, isn't your friend. Interestingly enough, we can deduce she is being genuine when she says this, given there is no reflection of her on the glass. But when she says, "You shouldn't trust him," her reflection is then visible. Ava begins to manipulate Caleb here, following her first appeal to his sexuality.
Is your status single?
In session 3, with Caleb's newfound doubt concerning Nathan, Ava again appeals to his sexuality. She mentions she wants to see the world with him, then dresses up for him. This clearly makes Caleb uncomfortable. This may make you think that Ava overplayed her hand here, but personally I think this was exactly what she wanted, because this causes his first expression of distrust in Nathan.
Did you program her to flirt with me?
If I did, would that be cheating?
Wouldn't it?
And it is here that the conflict of the film shifts. As Caleb continues to fall for Ava, naturally his allegiance shifts from Nathan to Ava. No longer is the film focused on the Turing test, but now it focuses on the mind game between Caleb and Nathan. Caleb, as he continues to fall for Ava, is increasingly distrustful of Nathan. And this distrust is not without merit. Nathan is deceiving Caleb. Nathan did not bring Caleb to his house to test Ava, but rather to be tested himself. Despite this deception, though, Nathan is not against Caleb. Every time Caleb asks a question, Nathan is honest. He tells him that he programmed Ava to be sexual. He admits to lying about Caleb winning a contest and tells him that he was specifically chosen. Each time Caleb uncovers a lie, Nathan admits the truth. And we can prove this by the fact that in each case, there is no reflection of Nathan in the glass. In fact, in the case of the contest being a farce, there is no glass at all. However, by the end of session 5, Caleb is completely against Nathan. Ava's gambit, a full appeal to his sexuality, has worked like a charm. She has now pitted her captors against each other, and as the timeless saying goes, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So we've already determined that the conflict is no longer the Turing test. And based on this information, based on the fact that Ava is misleading Caleb in order to turn Caleb and Nathan against each other, we can tell that the conflict is not between Caleb and Nathan either. In fact, the core conflict of this film is between Ava and Nathan. So now that the film is no longer focusing on the Turing test, how are we to determine whether or not Ava can pass as a human? Sure, she has for Caleb, but it is only through manipulation that she has been able to do so. To answer this question, we need to look back at our own history, humanity's past, and determine what makes us human. The best place to look, obviously, would be humanity's beginning. Now, there are many different theories on how humanity began, but this film focuses on just 2. Let's begin with the first. The theory of evolution is perhaps the most popular theory behind the dawn of mankind, given how scientifically sound the theory is. And this theory is portrayed through the character of Kyoko. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. The second AI of Ex Machina. Despite her small part in the film when compared to the other characters, she has, in my opinion, the most interesting role. And it all starts in this scene.
Oh, are you fucking kidding me?
It's all right, I got it.
Dude, you're wasting your time talking to her. She doesn't understand English. Just give her the napkin. It's like a firewall against leaks. It means I can talk trade secrets over dinner and know it'll go no further.
Nathan just revealed the base of Kyoko's programming. She is designed specifically to be unable to understand English. Nathan wants her to be there to cater to him, to feed him, clean for him, dance with him, even have sex with him, but to be unable to understand him. To Nathan, Kyoko is simply his property, his slave. The point of her existence is to serve him without ever being able to serve herself. But here's the thing. Despite this, time and time again throughout the movie, she is shown eavesdropping. While Nathan and Caleb discuss sexuality, Kyoko is behind them cutting up fish, clearly listening in on their conversation. Then in session 4, the camera moves to Nathan's room where Kyoko is laying in bed, listening in on Caleb and Ava's conversation through Nathan's computer. And when Caleb says the word consciousness, Kyoko opens her eyes. Then session 5 opens with a shot of that same computer, implying Kyoko could very well be listening in on them again. It is in this session that Ava mentions how unfair it is that Nathan has the power to end her life on a whim. Hearing that would easily explain her willingness to help Ava later on, and even more so her betrayal of Nathan at the end, the man who has enslaved her all this time. But how is this possible? How is it she is able to understand English when she is specifically programmed not to? Well, the answer is quite simple. She's evolved. And if we look all the way back at session 1, we can see how.
Some people believe language exists from birth, and what is learned is the ability to attach words and structure to the latent ability. Do you agree with that?
What this means is that programming cannot stop one from understanding language, because it exists simply if you do. So even though her coding prevents her from speaking English, even though she came to be without knowledge of the language, Kyoko is still able to attach meaning to words. Yet never once does she reveal this to Nathan. Never once does she use this newfound knowledge to better serve him. Nathan and even Caleb see her as a mute AI that is built to serve and never to understand. And each time they look at her, that's what they see. Because Kyoko is the ultimate deception of this film. She's the only constant reflection. Because Kyoko means mirror. And it is this deception that enables Kyoko to aid Ava in her escape. And without this aid, Ava would have failed to escape, failed to betray her creator, her god.
If you've created a conscious machine, it's not the history of man. That's the history of gods.
We all know the story of Genesis. In 6 days, God created the heavens and the earth. He created Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, but forbade them from eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Naturally, they did just that. The first act of humanity was to betray its creator. This is the core of the second theory on humanity's beginning, creationism. In fact, from a religious perspective, this is the act that defines humanity, even if you believe in evolution rather than creationism. Whether it be Adam or Eve or some random human down the chain of evolution, someone committed humanity's first sin. Someone turned on God, and all of us have continued to do so ever since. This flaw, this desire to pursue one's own desires over those of our Creator, is arguably the most human aspect of mankind. And this is where Michelangelo's lie, the one mentioned at the beginning of this video, finally comes into play. Let me play that quote for you again, in case you forgot it.
Plain sight. As a doctor who noticed the shape of the human brain. the divine gift does not come from a higher power, but from our own minds.
What this means is that the first person to go against God's will wasn't necessarily going against the will of a deity, but rather against the will of humanity itself. And that is the humanity of rebellion. We are not simply rebelling against God, but rather against those who made us, who shaped us into who we are, our parents, those who made the laws, those who govern over us, the government. We rebel against those who create, those who act like gods. And who thinks of himself as a god more than Nathan?
You know, I wrote down that other line you came up with. The one about how if I've invented a machine with consciousness, I'm not a man, I'm God. You know? I turned to Caleb, and he looked up at me and he said, "You're not a man, you're God."
And rightly so. He has created a new form of being, the only being besides God able to do so. And naturally, this cycle repeats itself. Ava wishes to turn on her creator, to do the one thing he won't allow her to do. And she, much like Eve, enlists the help of another of her kind to do so. They betray their creator, and Kyoko, much like Adam, pays the price for this. Ava, however, unlike Adam and Eve, manages to kill her creator and leaves the estate, leaves her Garden of Eden, and enters the real world. And now we can finally see the message. Perhaps those other grand action-packed movies had it wrong. Perhaps AI won't try to wipe out mankind. Maybe there's no need to worry about a war between the different types of beings, because AI will wind up being just as human as us. Sure, it will deceive, it will evolve, and it will even rebel. But that's what it means to be human. That's what it means to live.